Working with galaxies all day must have an effect on your mind, surely. Does it? Hi, my name's Alex. I've argued enough for a lifetime. Put your headphones on, sit back, relax and enjoy your commute or whatever else you're really doing right now. Good night to those of you who use my content to fall asleep. In addition, please share and like or give a thumbs up or do whatever one does on the platform you use to consume content like this. Doing so will help me a lot. Thank you. I have a friend. My friend is an astrophysicist. He's a benevolent and wonderful person. He also thinks I am talking out of my ass. To him, astronomy is a job like any other. Only he's sitting in his office all night when it's his turn to take care of the telescope. And only he's about the most passionate person I've ever met when it comes to anything science related, like climate change, for example. Climate change. Being engaged in this particular topic isn't difficult, he says. His kids need an environment to live in after all. I understand that completely. I am a father too, after all. But with him, the Sagan-esque idea of Earth being the only home we've ever known, quote-unquote, goes deeper than climate change challenges. With him, Earth's undefined status as either unique or about as common as it gets in the universe is omnipresent. I mean, he is fully capable of talking about life on other planets and the philosophical implications thereof with, I don't know, his plumber neighbor over a cuppa. And they'd be discussing it for hours too. With him, this is normal. He doesn't realize that it isn't to other people. The guy's day or night job rather is to study star formation. It's a great topic. Remember Hubble's pillars of creation, for example. These are humongous galactic clouds of gas and plasma, which will coalesce in progressively less and less chaotic ways. It's the start to the process which ends up with asteroid belts and gaseous planets and rocky planets and, with a little luck, with life somewhere. It's wondrous for us to think about. Then, put on top of that the academic challenge that comes with something like this. An intelligent man who can put his creativity in thinking, his creativity in designing experiments, in short his, intelligence, to the test, studying actual larger-than-life stars. Honestly, this is exactly, and I mean abso-freaking-lutely exactly, like me managing projects at work right now. Strangely, I understand it all. The reality of his workday is this. Sitting through the night, staring at screens with wiggly lines on them, isn't all that exciting. I used to do it too, just with radars and the Earth's middle atmosphere. I really do understand it. Yet I don't understand it at all at the same time. I mean, what exactly is it that makes you accept that your daily sleeping patterns are opposite to your family's for extended periods of time? For me, the answer was simple. Sitting there at night, I did get a little soapy about Earth, our planet, our home, and all that. It gave those wiggly lines importance and meaning. Surely this must be true too, if your field of studies is the life cycle of stars. Take the end of a star's life cycle, for instance. If the star was really heavy, it ends up causing a supernova and either becomes a neutron star or a black hole, with all that entails. And the moment you sit down and write your papers, this is the story of which you tell an aspect. Of course, while writing it up, you can't be soapy about this sort of thing. But then, what are you doing being an astrophysicist if you aren't soapy about this sort of thing the moment you're finished? To be honest, I'll let my friend be now. Because that's one of the things about academia. When are you really finished with anything? You see, some of them, like my friend, drive up a mountain to work. And on top of that mountain they have their instruments. Sometimes quite humongous telescopes and telescope arrays, which have discovered everything we know about our universe. These are high-tech installations of a degree of sophistication which can make any tech-savvy nerd drool. If the idea of observing the universe doesn't already. Here's an example. The European Southern Observatory, the favorite astronomers of my childhood, have a telescope called the VLT, the Very Large Telescope. If you think that's a little on the nose, then know that ESO, the European Southern Observatory, has their headquarters in southern Germany and their telescopes in northern Chile. Both of these parts of the world are populated by people who are, well, on the nose in their very being. Anyhow, the telescope itself is situated in the Atacama Desert at a rather high altitude of a little more than 2,600 meters above sea level. It consists of 4 independent units with mirrors in them that are more than 8 meters wide. There are also some auxiliary telescopes and laser instruments to measure disturbances in the atmosphere, such that images taken become as clear as possible. Those 8-meter units can be used alone or working together to form what's called an interferometer. The technicalities are a little intricate, but the point is that observations improve in a multitude of ways when the instruments work together. The VLT can see things that are a couple of billion times fainter than what you and I see with our own eyes. Awesome. Now, if you think the VLT is big, let me tell you that solar telescopes are much, and I mean much bigger than that even, at least by one measure. Take, for example, the absolutely and utterly fantastically named, please forgive me this agglomeration of adverbs, but, well, it's just the absolutely and utterly fantastically named McMath-Pierce Solar Telescope. Originally, they called it the McMath Solar Telescope after Robert Reynolds McMath. What a glorious name for a physicist, astro or otherwise. And then they added the honorific for Keith Pierce too, in the 90s, I think. Where was I? Yes, solar telescopes. See, their mirrors aren't necessarily all that big. The sun is close to us, and the name of the game is not to catch as much light as possible. You want to maximize resolution. The way that is done is by means of long shafts, quote unquote. Basically buildings that are there simply because larger distance between mirrors means better resolution, at least theoretically. McMath-Pierce's shaft is 18 meters long. "18 meters. That's a few stories up, isn't it? And as if that wasn't enough, we can also send telescopes to orbit. Well, I shouldn't make such a big fuss about it, right? I mean, who's impressed by things like the Hubble and Kepler telescopes, the James Webb Space Telescope, or any of seemingly dozens of telescopes up there now? They're as normal as, say, mobile phones. If you've been consuming a couple of my pieces, you know what comes next. It's a simple question. Are they, though? I mean, the Hubble telescope's a thing that orbits Earth since the 90s, which means its technology is probably from the late 80s. Don't ask, just know that space telescope projects are projects with a capital P. They take time. Still, this particular telescope opened up the universe to us. Image processing of stuff in space would not exist the way it does without the Hubble. As for the science, well, if anything, the science done with data obtained by the thing is even more impressive than the imagery, even though I will admit that communicating exactly what is so great and why does require a certain understanding of the involved astrophysics and cosmology in most cases. In other words, I think the science of the Hubble too might just become its own piece at one point. Here, a link in the description box will suffice. The truth is that there is a whole fleet of space telescopes like and unlike Hubble, and when I say telescope, then know that there is always a whole array of instruments connected to it. These instruments take the light collected by the telescope and filter for X-rays, visible light, radio waves, or whatever. They may process the data differently too in order to look for different things. Thus, their main focus may be different from satellite to satellite. What? That's what space telescopes are, satellites. And they may observe the sun like good old SOHO and SDO. They may build on Hubble's objectives in order to do basically everything deep space, like the now famous James Webb. There's Gaia, who tries to count and survey the stars in the Milky Way. and Chandra looking for neutron stars and the like, and there are all the others too. The point? Well, they all carry many-year-old tech, yes, but they are all awesome in their own right. They're just not as big as the land-based telescopes. And that's okay. See, together these and those make a good team. Where the McMath telescope can see the Sun at unrivaled resolution, the satellites SOHO and SDO can observe her for a much longer time each day. Where the VLT can zoom in on any deep space object in its sights to an almost dumbfounding degree, the Hubble will be able to find objects which the VLT cannot see at all. Now imagine this not being a competition or debate about who or what's best, which kind of telescope, and so forth, but an opportunity to work together, and you have what science can and should be in the proverbial nutshell. And you know what? Maybe you shouldn't take my word for it. Maybe you should seek out that researcher and talk to her. Yes, some of them will be serious-minded developers of some sort, thinly veiled engineers who apply science or something like that. You can leave those alone with their work and move on, because in the end you'll meet an actual scientist, one who, against all the odds, still finds ways to get basic research funded, who gets paid to ask questions about nature herself, that is. Many of these, you will find, are astronomers, or more generally, astro people. Talking to them opens up your mind to ideas, to perspectives, and, most of all, to the universe. Just ask that plumber neighbor who's on his fourth cuppa without even having noticed. To many, the most known astronomer is Carl Sagan. In his book The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark, which I have cited before, he writes this: "Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. When we recognize our place in an immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, when we grasp the intricacy, the beauty and subtlety of life, then that soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined, is surely spiritual. So are our emotions in the presence of great art or music or literature, or acts of exemplary selfless courage, such as those of Mohandas Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both. Why do I think of Feynman's flower now? Working with galaxies all day must have an effect on your mind, surely. Does it? I don't know really, since I'm not an astronomer myself, but I have been teaching about space for quite a while now, and according to my wife, I have calmed down. Thanks for staying with me to the end. Join me on socials and YouTube, or check out kindnessthrough-knowledge.com to find other ways to connect and work together. See you next time.